We just hit 1K! Yo, what is up? It is your boys that are back with a brand new video. Now, as you can see, this is going to be the 1K special. I know, it's one of those things that it's like, how's this gonna work? But you guys will definitely have to find out. This is going to be a little bit of a longer what if, and there's actually gonna be a little bit of a trilogy. When we hit 2K, sorry. When we hit 2K, I'm actually gonna be dropping What If Naruto was trained by Xehther. So if you guys want that, go ahead and hurry up in terms of the subscribers. This one is going to require no like goal at all, but you guys better still hit the like goal because come on now, you know, we all like to see likes on our videos. But yeah, that being said, this is going to be what if Deku was trained by Xehther. And with no further ado, let's get right into the video. So, my powers in this series, or I'm not going to be talking about mine, I'm going to be talking about myself or Xehther in a different point of view. I don't know which one you could call it, but I'm going to say he and like stuff like that, because I don't want to sound like I'm talking about myself actually, even though I am, but still. So in terms of this series, Xehther is actually going to be the #1 hero of the US. He's going to have not a quirk, but something that everybody has inside. He's going to have chi manipulation. Now, the way that he actually ended up getting that is his grandfather actually was a sort of master in chi control. His grandfather ended up teaching him that when this is around the time where quirks were barely starting to pop off, and a lot of people actually had quirks, and heroes were beginning to become a popular thing. This is around the All Might era. This is when his grandfather will see that Xehther was quirkless. He didn't have a quirk, and that had actually broken his heart because he wanted to become a hero. That's what he wanted to do. His grandfather would have decided that, you know what, screw it. He's gonna teach him, and he wants him to be his successor in terms of his chi control. So for the next couple years, Xehther would actually grow up being trained in chi manipulation. His grandfather would actually end up teaching him all that he could, up until he died when Xehther was about 15 years old. The next 7 years, because he's going to be 22 in this series, are actually going to be spent with him discovering new things about chi that he never even knew were possible. He discovers some abilities that are just amazing and insane. During that time, he would have discovered spiritual meditation, meaning he can train his mind, power negation, sort of like Aizawa, but on a much lesser scale, so he can like negate people's quirks absolutely, like Xehther can do that. But the lower scale of it would probably be something like he can make the quirk weaker, can paralyze people using his chi or his blood, or a chi like bloodlust. He will have will, which will make him get into a state of I will not lose, elemental manipulation, elemental pressure / like aura manipulation. He'll have amazing senses of battle combat, so a little bit of like a scouter on his head. He'll have enhanced roar, meaning he can basically like roar at you, and that will send you flying. Invisibility, flight, healing, chi combat and understanding, amazing enhancement powers, energy blast, control negation, and balance. Something that I'm going to be talking to you guys about later on. I know guys, that sounds a little too broken, but trust me, I'm only going to be in the series for the beginning. But that being said, let's go ahead and get into the actual story. Story starts off when Deku's actually a kid. The day that he was actually trying to save the kid was getting picked on by Bakugo. Right after he said, "Kachan, you're being mean. If you don't stop, I'll stop you myself." And Bakugo's like, "What are you gonna do, defenseless Izuku?" When suddenly, out of nowhere, Xehther jumps in right in front of them before they could attack Deku as he says, "What are we doing here, kids?" As Bakugo and the rest of the goons are just like, it's Xehther. You're the #1 hero in America. As Xehther would be like, "Sure am." And he would begin to say, "Well, why don't you guys go ahead and get out of here, and I won't tell anybody about what happened here." As Bakugo and his goons would be like, "Yes, sir. We'll leave immediately." This is when Xehther would actually get down to Midoriya's level as he says, "What you did back here was very brave and impressive of you. What's your quirk, kid?" As Deku would proceed to say, "Oh, I don't have a quirk." As others actually caught off guard by this, thinking, "He's just like me." As Midoriya is just like, "Yeah, I've always wanted to become a hero. Somebody as great as you or All Might, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I'm quirkless. I don't stand a chance. As Xehther would proceed to pat him on the head and say, come on now, kid. Don't get your hopes down low that much. How about this? I'll train you. How does that sound? As Deku would look up with a little bit of a daze in his eyes as he then says, really? You'll train me? As Xehther's like, sure, kid. And he says, you know what? How about you hop on my back? As Xehther actually ends up carrying Midoriya back to his house. As Midoriya actually ends up guiding him back down to his house. This one, Xehther will actually knock on the door and Inko will open it. As soon as she sees him, she'll be like, you're, oh, she passes out. And Deku just like, Mom, wake up. As he's like, Mom, wake up. As Inko wakes up and she's like, oh, Izuku, sorry, I had the wildest dream. I thought that the #1 hero in America came to my house. And this is when he would basically be in the kitchen, just be like, yo, what's good? As she's like, it's real? And she'll be like, what are you doing here, Xehther? As Xehther's just like, well, I'm actually came here to ask you something, man. I want to train your son. I want to train him to become my successor. I want to give him the chance that a lot of other kids may not have. The chance that I was given when I was about his age. As she's like, of course you can train my son. And Xehther's just like, well, that handles that. And Deku just has like a little glimmer in his eyes. He thinks, I can do it. Thanks to you, I can become a hero. During the next couple years, Xehther would actually end up training Deku in chi manipulation. He'll spend the first 7 years up until he's actually 12 learning all of the basics of ki. And this means that he would have amazing combat training up until this age, which Xehther will actually implement into him very hard. Deku will not slack in terms of his body, and he'll actually be very ripped. He knows a lot of different forms of martial arts, and Deku also has physical enhancement in terms of chi, as well as reading an opponent like a book. During these couple years, Deku wouldn't have actually grown up getting bullied. He would grow up being as that popular kid, because everybody will look at him as that kid who knows Xehther. And Deku will actually not get picked on. He'll actually have a plethora of friends. And every time that Bakugo would try to do anything to Deku, his friends would be like, get out of here, Bakugo! Don't mess with him or Xehther will come get you. As Bakugo's like, whatever, nerd. As he basically just ended up leaving Deku alone, getting a little bit of a hatred towards him and training a little harder, knowing that Deku is actually getting trained by the #1 hero in America, which causes Bakugo to get a little bit of an inferiority complex. During the next couple years, meaning he'd actually be 12, for the next 3 years, Xehther would actually end up training him in something else. During those 7 years, the way that he trained Deku wasn't that he ended up just staying in Japan. Xehther, of course, was a hero in America, so he had to stay there. Xehther would actually come by every now and then. Every month, he would come by for about a week and train Deku in everything that he can in terms of chi manipulation and control of basic chi. Would spend the first 7 years admittedly being very booty at it because, he had no prior experience. He's never been around it, and Deku wasn't exactly a fast learner during this point. Now, in terms of the 7 years mark, Xehther would have actually arrived one day, telling him that, you know what? I think you're ready. As Izuku's just like, ready for what? As Xehther begins to tell him that for the next 3 years, I'm going to train you in an insane way, and I'm going to get you very, very strong. So for the next 3 years, Deku and Xehther would actually have immense, hellish training, in which, in those years, Deku would have actually learned spiritual meditation, the ability to train in his mind, power negation to a very weak scale. He can use bloodlust chi ability that works sort of like bloodlust. He can have a will which will basically enhance his strength. It's like a sort of a boost, kind of like the Kaioken, and it's a 3 times booster, but the physical backlash of using it is very insane. He'll also get energy blast, so think ki blast, and enhancement to his body, which he's basically always had ever since he was about 7 years old, because as soon as he learned chi, he got onto that pretty quickly. Now, this is when the day of the papers getting thrown into the air would arrive. Deku would be in class, just like, yeah, as the teacher would say, Bakugo, you want to go to UA, don't you? As Bakugo would get up and say he's the best, but the class would say, no, you're wrong. Midoriya is the best. He's trained by the #1 hero. As Bakugo's like, don't give me that crap. I'll become the #1 hero by my own, because I don't need anybody to help me, just like that worthless loser. As the teacher would tell him to settle down, and that would basically be that in terms of what happens there. At the end of class, Deku would actually be packing up his things in his hero notebook. Suddenly, Bakugo comes in out of nowhere with his goons, trying to attack Deku. This is when Deku will basically try to be nice about it. He will try to let Bakugo off the hook, being calm about everything, as Bakugo is just rushing at him, saying, "So, Zuko, you think you're better than me, huh? Just because you have that #1 hero to guard your back. Let's see how much better than me you are after I put you 6 feet under." As he attacks Deku with malicious intent, shooting big explosions at him and his goons, the one with the wings and the one with the fingers, would appear out of nowhere trying to attack Deku. Deku would apparently speed blitz out of there and knock out one of the goons, elbowing him in the back of the head, knocking him clean out. And the other one, he would go behind him and karate chop him on the neck, making him pass out immediately. After seeing that, Bakugo would think, "It's whatever, those guys are weaklings anyways, I can take you out." As he shoots explosions at Deku that Deku dodges, he uses his enhancement to basically get into a hand-to-hand combat with Bakugo. He'll actually be very impressed by Bakugo's ability to, do this to Deku, as Deku would basically decide that he can't play these games anymore. If this carries on, the classroom will be destroyed and Deku will not have any of this. This is when he will have his uses chi. An aura of chi will surround him. It's a green, bluish, think turquoise aura that would surround him, making his eyes go more of a turquoise color as Deku begins to look at Bakugo straight in his eyes. Now Deku won't have fear overcome him. He'll have more of a calm feeling overcome him, which will make him have all of his intent go away. He'll be a little paralyzed by just knowing how strong Deku is, and after this, Bakugo will fall to his knees thinking, You're a monster. How are you this strong?" As Deku says, "I trained, Bakugo. That's all there is to it." As Bakugo would fall to his knees and Deku would walk out of there, just kind of having Bakugo to sit there and think of what he did. Now, this is when Deku would actually walk home take a different path, thinking, well, he has to get home quickly. And this is when suddenly the sludge villain would appear out of nowhere. As soon as it pops out, Deku would be like, "Okay, I need to handle this." As he basically proceeds to shoot chi blasts at the monster, making big holes through it and burning through big portions of it, as the monster would basically run away from Deku. But when it turns around, All Might would be standing there, being like, "I am here!" As he shoots a Texas Smash at the villain, sending it flying and sending the sludge villain parts just flying in all directions. This is when Deku would proceed to be like, "All Might, I didn't know you were in town." As All Might's like, "Ha ha ha, who are you?" As he then says, "Oh, young Midoriya." As Deku looks at All Might and says, "Hey, what's up, All Might?" And I'm just going to throw this out there just because I don't want it to be like a little bit of a pop point. Deku has met All Might before because Xehther actually ended up putting him on. He heard that was his one of his biggest inspirations to become a hero, and Xehther decided it'd be a little bit of a nice thing. He'd be like, "So, how's your master? How's Xehther?" As he would ask, "Oh, well, he's actually doing fine. He's over in US. Said he won't be able to come back here for a little while now since crime rate has actually gone up quite a little bit. And he's actually trying to solve that." As All Might would be like, "I see." He'd say, "So, are you going into the UA entrance exams?" As Deku would be like, "Sure am." And All Might would basically pat him on the back and not give him his autograph, but just be like, "Well, if you want, you could get my number and I could help you out in terms of your training." Deku would be like, "Really? That'd be amazing." As he takes down All Might's number and actually ends up training with him for the next 10 months. Now, the 10 months, he had actually spent that honing his combat ability more, gaining the abilities of invisibility, flight, elemental roars, elemental manipulation, as well as one more thing, not a power. Xehther would have actually dropped by around the last day that Deku had to train with All Might, when Deku and All Might had basically gotten like a little bit of an older brother and younger brother kind of relationship with each other. As Xehther pops in and he's like, "Yo, Deku, I got something for you." As Deku's like, "What is it?" As Xehther takes off his jacket, the jacket that he was seen wearing whenever he's a hero. As Xehther would take it off and say, well, Deku, I'm actually very proud of you for how far you've come in such a short amount of time. I can't believe that when I first found you, you were just this weak little boy. He shows him a picture of what he looked like before. And Deku looks at his body, now ripped. Just ripped and lean at the same time. He basically has a bit of a Xehther build. As you can see from the thumbnail, the jacket is like a purple and black jacket. As Deku holds this jacket into his hands and says, thank you. I'll keep this safe, always. As Xehther would say, well, I hope so. As Xehther says, well, it's time for me to put on a new one. As Xehther whips out an even sexier version of it, and he's like, can't have you stealing my drip like that. As Deku's just like, what? As Xehther's just like, yeah, you're gonna be my successor, so you better get the uniform ready. As Deku's like, In terms of Deku's hero costume, he's gonna have legit what Xehther's wearing in the picture. Nothing but some jeans, some denim jeans, and some white Air Force Ones, because he's not dangerous. And Deku would actually be very grateful to Xehther for the jacket. Now, this is when Deku would actually say goodbye to them as he goes on to the entrance exams. This is when Uraraka will actually trip. As he goes up to her and he's like, hey, are you okay? As he catches her and she's like, oh, yeah, thank you for helping me. As Deku's like, it was no problem. After this, Deku basically proceeds to go inside, and he ends up acing the written exam because this man is not dumb. He is extremely smart. Xehther did not just teach him how to be a physical brute and nothing else. She commands extreme discipline and a lot of intelligence in order to learn it. So Deku will actually be extremely smart. He will actually pass it with a perfect score. And in terms of the physical portion, Deku will actually be walking towards the front when out of nowhere Ida stops him. Ida will tell him it's not nice to bug other people, as Deku says he was just trying to get to the front, and says that he could understand why he thought that. Now Ida would actually be like, oh, I'm sorry I stopped you like this then. As Deku just looks at him and says, no problem, man. See you around. As Deku just walks up to the front, and Uraraka's standing next to him, and she asks, hey, you're that boy. Isn't this nerve-wracking? As Deku just like, calm your nerves. Try to concentrate and clear your mind before you get into this, or you may not pass. As she looks at him and is like, okay, we'll do. As Deku's just like, well, good luck. And right as that happens, President Mike opens the gate as he says, there's no countdowns in a real battle. Now, as soon as this race starts, Deku would have blitzed off one of his feet, just blitzing through countless robots, using his chi manipulation to shoot fire out of his hands, lightning, water, and wind out of nowhere, just shooting those things straight at the freaking beasts of robots. During this time, Deku would have actually ended up destroying 1,056 robots, clearing the entire section before anybody could have even destroyed one robot, meaning the 0-pointer? That didn't happen. The heroes would have just been like, kid number 137, could you please stop? You destroyed everything. As he would look up and be like, what? As he sees the mayhem that he caused behind him. He destroyed every robot. Like, this is no game. He was playing no games. He destroyed every robot. As he would be like, oh, sorry about that. As the rest of the test takers are just like, he's a monster. As some of them are thinking, what do we do now? As the examinees basically tell them that they're gonna just have to come back tomorrow, and they look at Deku and tell him, don't come back, you passed. Like, there's no doubt in our minds that you passed. Deku's just smiling and he walks off. Now, this is when Deku would actually be like, sorry that I went a little too crazy there, didn't I? As the other applicants are just like, They begin to bombard Deku, asking him what his quirk is, and Deku will tell them that he has a super amazing enhancement quirk that lets him enhance his abilities to like about 100 times or 1,000 times the normal capabilities of normal human. He tells them that because this is what Xehther does. He doesn't want chi to fall into the wrong hands and have to potentially face an opponent with an amazing chi control. Deku would proceed to just make up that little lie, and this is when they would actually get off him. In terms of Deku going home, he would basically arrive home and tell his mother that he's back, telling her that he's pretty sure he passed, as she would be like, well, I'm pretty sure you did too, considering the #1 hero in America trained you. And that's where I'm gonna be leaving it off, boys. Next part will be covering the little quirk apprehension test, the heroes versus villains, as well as the USJ attack. If you guys want to see that, go ahead and drop a big old like. I'm gonna actually no, yeah. Just go ahead and drop a big old like, guys. Just do it for me. Come on now, for me, for me. 4 videos today. I know technically it was only 3. One of those was a thank you video, but you know what can I say? That being said, officially, Xehther out.